A single moment inside a congressional hearing suddenly turned the entire room silent. One lawmaker leaned forward, looked directly at the Homeland Security Secretary, and delivered a line that instantly went viral. "You have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now." That moment came during a tense hearing between Jasmine Crockett and Kristi Noem. What started as a routine oversight session quickly turned into one of the most explosive exchanges on immigration policy in recent memory. But the viral confrontation wasn't just about politics.
So congratulations. I just have a couple of questions. Are you aware that the law that was written by this Congress makes it clear that members of Congress are entitled to enter any detention?
Representative Crockett, I apologize. I have to run to vote in another committee, Secretary, and Mr. Schmidt will chair, and you will get extra 15 seconds, but I apologize for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for your
Mr. Chairman.
testimony.
Appreciate it.
Are you aware that the law makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to enter any detention facility at any point in time in which they choose to?
Yes, I'm aware of the visitation and oversight responsibility, and we work every day to try to accommodate members of Congress while taking into account the safety of those individuals that are being detained there.
Let me be clear. At any time, correct?
Yes, I understand there's litigation in this area.
No,
too, so
that's not
we
my
are
question. I'm not asking you
facilitating
about
that.
litigation.
Yeah.
I'm asking you what the law is, because let me put it to you this
There's
way.
an appropriations rider that talks about
Correct,
oversight.
and appropriations
That is
are law,
correct.
because you are asking us to
Correct.
appropriate dollars right now for DHS, correct?
Correct.
And if we do that, you would take that as law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is what the law states, yet somehow, myself and another colleague, Congressman Castro, we ended up giving a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility because I had actually already gone to El Paso before. And when I went to that facility and I asked them why it was that they were requiring me to do something that specifically my branch of government had dictated was not required, they said it was because of you. They said you were the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry unless we gave a 7 days heads up. Is that true?
Yeah. The law specifically states oversight and visitations, and we are working to
My question
facilitate
is,
those, and we're at that time working
did
to
you give the instruction that members must give a 7 days heads up or not?
We had a policy in place that allowed us to get
Did
the
you,
staff
were you
there
the
to
one that ordered that
facilitate.
policy?
I have a responsibility for ensuring everybody in that
Okay.
facility is going to be safe, and that I have
Okay,
adequate
no, but that's not
staff
my question, because
to
the
conduct
problem,
a
let
tour
me
and
tell you why we
oversight
need
at the
to,
same time.
reclaiming my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy and you're talking to me about safety is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue. In fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now. So I don't expect that y'all are gonna be the ones that are gonna be best to keep them safe. This is why we are supposed to conduct oversight and not wait for you to give permission. In fact, after I left the Dilley facility, we were informed of a measles outbreak that was taking place in that facility. And another question I have, are you the one that ordered it to be reopened, because that facility was closed under Joe Biden?
Those facilities were opened with the new administration. I'd have to look
Okay,
and
you're
see
part
if
of the
that
new
was-
administration. Were you the one that ordered it to be open is my question.
I would have to see when it was opened, because I wasn't sworn in until 5 days after
Okay,
the
well, this
president
was,
was
it
in
was
office.
reopened in
So I
March.
would have to look at
It
when.
was reopened in March of last year.
Well, then I'm sure that contract would have been renewed while I was secretary.
Speaking of contracts, as I have, actually, you know what, let me continue on this line of y'all breaking the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right, so Liam was at this Dilley facility, and it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice, and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children? This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on several
I'm
points
sure you would,
in
but can you
there.
tell me whether or not
That
you have a law
father-
degree?
Father chose to.
Can you
to
tell
have
me whether or
Liam
not
be
you have a
with
law
him.
degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a law
Okay,
degree.
and you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have two UCs. The first UC is ICE training was slashed, records show corroborating whistleblower claims from the Washington Post on yesterday.
Without objection.
The second one is FEMA's response to Texas flood slowed by Noem's cost controls. This is out of CNN from July 10th of 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
I would ask unanimous consent to put in the record a document from DHS.gov titled Illegal Alien with More Than 30 Prior Arrests Fatally Stabs Woman at Virginia Bus Stop. ICE requests Virginia authorities not release this public safety threat. Without objection. Is this a single one or is this multiple? Single. Okay. And also would ask unanimous.
It was about detention centers, government oversight, and a story involving a 5-year-old child that left lawmakers visibly shaken. And as the questioning continued, the tension only kept rising. The clash began when Crockett started asking a simple question about the law. Under federal law, members of Congress are allowed to visit immigration detention facilities as part of their oversight responsibilities. The rule exists for a reason. Lawmakers are supposed to check conditions, ensure safety, and verify that federal agencies are following the law. But according to Crockett, something strange happened when she tried to exercise that authority. She explained that when she attempted to visit a detention center in Texas, officials told her she needed to provide 7 days' notice before entering. That immediately raised alarm bells, because the law doesn't require that. So Crockett asked the question directly. Was this policy coming from the Department of Homeland Security? And more specifically, did the order come from Secretary Noem herself? At first, the response was vague. Noem spoke about safety procedures and the need to manage visits responsibly. But Crockett wasn't asking about safety protocols. She wanted a clear answer about whether DHS had instructed facilities to block lawmakers from entering without advance notice. So she pressed again. Did you order that policy or not? The room grew noticeably tense. But that wasn't the moment that stunned the hearing. Not yet, because Crockett had something else she wanted to talk about. The conversation shifted from policy to something far more serious. Conditions inside detention centers. According to Crockett, when she visited the facility in Dilley, Texas, she saw issues that deeply concerned her. She claimed the facility was not as safe as officials were suggesting, and said the situation inside showed exactly why congressional oversight is necessary. At one point during the exchange, Crockett delivered a statement that immediately grabbed attention. She told the secretary that detention centers under her watch had lost more lives than any previous administration. It was a direct accusation, delivered without hesitation. Then she raised another question. The Dilley facility had previously been shut down during the administration of Joe Biden. But later, the facility reopened. So Crockett asked the obvious question. Who ordered it reopened? Noem responded that she had not yet been sworn in when the facility reopened and said she would need to review the timeline. But Crockett didn't stop there, because the next part of the conversation would take the hearing in a completely different direction, and it involved the story of a young boy. His name was Liam Ramos, just 5 years old. According to reports discussed during the hearing, Liam was taken into custody when immigration officers detained his father during an enforcement operation. What happened next quickly became a major point of controversy. Crockett explained that lawmakers had planned to visit the detention facility. But just days before that visit, Liam was reportedly moved into custody at the same facility. That meant when Crockett and other lawmakers arrived, they encountered a 5-year-old child being held there. The situation raised immediate questions. Why was a child that young being held in detention? And what condition was he in? What Crockett described next was deeply troubling. Later interviews and statements from lawmakers revealed what they said they saw inside the facility. According to Crockett, Liam appeared extremely lethargic. His father reportedly said the boy had been sleeping frequently and asking about his family. He wanted to go home. He wanted to go back to school. He kept asking about his backpack and the belongings he had when he was taken. Crockett described trying to wake the child gently while observing him, but his eyes never opened. The entire time they were there, he remained motionless. That moment raised serious concerns among the lawmakers who were present, and according to Crockett, the situation wasn't isolated. She said multiple families inside the facility described similar struggles among the children being held there. Some parents reportedly said their kids were not eating. Others said their children had become withdrawn or depressed. Some even reported concerns about water quality inside the facility to verify the claims. Crockett said lawmakers collected water samples to have them tested independently. But the most controversial part of the story came next, because soon after the case gained attention, a judge stepped in. During the hearing, Crockett referenced a court ruling related to Liam's case. The judge reportedly criticized how the situation had been handled, saying the case appeared to stem from what was described as an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented policy tied to deportation quotas. The ruling argued that immigration enforcement must still follow proper legal procedures. That statement became another flashpoint in the hearing, because when Crockett asked Noem whether she agreed with the judge's criticism, the response was blunt. Noem said she disagreed with parts of the ruling. That's when Crockett delivered another sharp line. She asked the secretary if she had a law degree. Noem answered honestly, no. Crockett responded by pointing out that regardless of personal disagreements, court orders must still be followed unless they are overturned through the legal system. In other words, the law still applies. But Crockett wasn't done, because the final moment of her questioning would bring history into the debate. Crockett began quoting a passage written more than 2 centuries ago. She referenced words written by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence. The passage listed grievances against a government accused of abusing its authority over the people. Crockett read the lines aloud during the hearing. The comparison suggested that the judge's criticism reflected concerns about government power and accountability. It was a dramatic moment, and it left the hearing room quiet. After finishing her remarks, Crockett yielded the remainder of her time, but the story didn't end there. Because outside the hearing room, the debate around detention policies continued to grow. In interviews after the visit, Crockett said she remained deeply concerned about the children she saw inside the facility. She said many parents told lawmakers that their biggest fear was what the experience was doing to their kids emotionally. According to Crockett, some children appeared depressed. Others seemed disconnected or withdrawn. And in Liam's case, she said his condition raised immediate concerns about his well-being. Medical staff at the facility reportedly told lawmakers that depression was common among detainees. But Crockett argued that the situation highlighted the need for stronger oversight and legal protections. She said lawmakers should consider policies that speed up court hearings for detainees so cases are resolved faster. She also suggested expanding legal resources so attorneys can challenge detention when individuals are being held unnecessarily. In her view, the system needs clearer timelines and stronger legal safeguards, because right now, she argued, too many people remain in detention while their cases slowly move through the courts. The broader immigration debate surrounding detention centers remains one of the most heated issues in American politics. Supporters of strict enforcement argue that detention is necessary to maintain border security and ensure immigration laws are followed. Critics argue the system needs major reforms, particularly when children or families are involved. The confrontation between Crockett and Noem brought that debate directly into the spotlight. It also showed how deeply divided lawmakers remain on the issue, and the story of Liam Ramos became a symbol of the larger argument. One side sees enforcement, the other sees a humanitarian crisis. The truth is still being debated. But one thing is certain. That explosive moment in Congress made the issue impossible to ignore, and the conversation about detention centers, oversight, and immigration policy is far from over.